everybody. It's Midas Letter RAW. It's Ed Milewski. It's just after 3. We should be here at 3. I'm joined today with beautiful Liz West.
Wow, can you say that anymore?
Beautiful.
I mean the Liz West part. You can always say the beautiful. Come on.
Pulchritudinous. Anyway, Liz West is here today. And Liz, you have the same name as James West. Any connection?
You know, only cosmically. No. We have no.
Isn't that interesting?
Absolutely 100% not related. It's a coinky dinky.
So, a coinky dinky?
Yeah, you know. Coincidence.
Wow, I never.
Yeah.
So tell me, I've seen you around here now for a couple of months, and always pleasant and
staying out of your way.
Yeah,
generally.
no. So tell me, what are you doing?
Why am I lingering amongst the Midas Letter Live folks? Well, you know, it's great. We've been brought in to help create some more content for the show. The show's fantastic, obviously. But what we're doing is we're sort of taking it outside of this studio and into the city of Toronto, the country of Canada, and beyond, to sort of add some more opinion and some more stories, you know, taking
color.
Headlines and color, if you want to call it that, to the show. So we've got a couple of stories that we're going to be showing you today.
Yes.
And I hope everybody likes them.
Yes, and yesterday we watched the story about the cannabis and pooches.
Yes.
Can
I tell you a funny story?
I mispronounced the gentleman's name. It's
Adamo.
Adamo.
Yeah. Adamo Barbieri. He's fantastic. He
Yeah,
did a great job on that story.
That was
It was a good story.
Yeah,
and
no.
I don't know, like, do you have a pet?
You know, my daughter moved back home for a year and a half, and we never had pets when they were little. But she said, you know what, I'm going to get a dog, and so we got a little French
bulldog.
Little French
That's
bulldog.
what my son wanted us to get. I didn't get one.
Well, you know what?
But he wanted one.
And we call her Peanut.
Yeah.
And Peanut, you know, she's just unbelievable. But they're gone now. They moved to Vancouver.
And took Frenchie?
Frenchie, of course, you know.
Right. That's sad.
Well, you know.
It happens.
If you live long enough, something's probably going to happen to you that's sad.
Well, what I wanted to ask you is if Frenchie ever, you know, accidentally consumed any cannabis.
No.
No.
No. No.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know, maybe.
Try to imagine. No, you would know. And I'll tell you why I'm asking is because when a couple of years ago, my husband was very sick. And he was struggling with his appetite and sleeping. And, you know, I said to a friend, I said, you know, I don't know, should I get him some pot cookies or something? Like, that's what everybody says is great.
Right.
And she said, I will get you some. I have a friend that's, you know, stage 4 cancer, has them all the time. I will get you some cookies. So I'm like, okay, bring home a little Ziploc with 4 cookies to my husband. Like, honey, you know, this might make you feel better. So we forget about it after that. I come home one night. Are you going to answer the phone?
No,
during
I'm not.
This
I'm
scintillating
not.
Story?
No.
I hope not.
No.
Wow.
I'm just. You know what? I can't get the thing to stop ringing.
I
Anyway.
can help you with that. It's called Do Not Disturb. It's pretty. Yeah. So then.
Sorry.
I come home from work, and we had a German short-haired pointer, beautiful dog, Jackson. He's like 10 years old, and Jackson is behaving really strangely, and he's I think he's having some kind of a seizure, and it's freaking me out because I already have kind of a sick husband, so I'm really stressed out.
Right.
And I go to touch Jackson, and he's cowering, and he's kind of wobbling on his 4 legs. He's like doing this, and I call my friend because my husband's not there. I'm like, oh my God, my dog is having a seizure. Help me. And of course, it's the after hours clinic because it's after hours. Your dogs only get sick in the after hours.
Right.
Which, you know. And I say, we have to take him to the emergency vet right away. And I pick him up. He's like 70 pounds, but, you know, he was wobbling over. We put him in the car, drive him to the vets, literally walking in the door of the vet with my dog like this in a blanket, freaked out. And the vet goes, did he eat cannabis? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course not. She said, are you sure? I said, no way. Put us in a little room.
Yeah.
And then she comes in and she goes, okay, he seems to have ingested some marijuana. So, you know, and I said, I don't know, maybe he went on a walk to the park and I wasn't looking, and he ate, you know, we had the blue hot dog thing happen at one point where there was some poison in the park. Who's that calling you?
You know what?
Is that George Clooney calling you? If it's him, we'll talk to him. Otherwise, we're not talking to anybody. So finally, the doctor leaves, the vet leaves, and then I was standing there and I went, oh my God. And I called my house. I said to, my husband was home, I said, look on the countertop. Is there a Ziploc with 4 pot cookies in there? And he said, nope. And the cookies and the bag had been consumed, the Ziploc, and he was completely stoned.
Yeah, he didn't eat the bag though, I hope.
He did eat the bag. Yes, of course, he ate the Ziploc. I mean, everything was gone. So, long story short he was really high.
Yeah.
And we were forced to order pizza, but he was fine. That was the good news. And then the doctor, the vet, gave me a little notice.
You were forced to order pizza
for the dog. He was starving at that point. Oh. And come on.
He had the munchies.
Help me out here.
He had the munchies.
The vet left.
The dog had.
Yes, thank you. The vet gave me a sheet of paper when I left with him saying how dangerous it was for your animals to consume THC, and in fact that a lot of animals consume drugs, cocaine being very prevalent. So it was a big wake-up call. I worry with like all the edibles and kids. Now that's what freaks me out.
But they're okay with the CBD. Is the
taken in the right dosage. Obviously,
right.
My dog didn't know anything about dosage, portion control. Ate an entire barbecue chicken, so knows nothing about what's right for him. But it was
chicken.
a learning experience for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, why am I here?
I
forget. Okay.
Are you talking in the very big?
What time is it? Am I out of time? Almost. We're almost out of time. So I was saying that we were creating this.
Yes.
We're going and shooting stories. We thought it's been 1 week, just over a week since recreational cannabis was legalized in the country.
Right.
Why don't we go and see what has changed? Has the sky fallen? So our correspondent JB Lauzon hit the streets to find out.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was great.
So 1 week after cannabis was legalized in Ontario, I'm here in downtown Toronto to ask locals what's changed. Is everything different? Is nothing different at all? Natalie, 1 week after cannabis was legalized, have you noticed anything different?
No, I didn't notice anything different, and I didn't think there was going to be any difference. Canada is a huge consumer of marijuana, and it's just about time that it's been legalized.
So 1 week after cannabis was legalized, has anything changed? Has it all changed?
Honestly, I can't say that I've noticed any change. Before last week, you could still smell it on the street as you walked along, and you can still smell it now.
Access to medical marijuana may be easier right now, and being of the age that I am and our friends are.
Late 20s?
Yes, definitely. Lots of our friends use medical marijuana, so I can see that becoming more accessible.
In terms of perhaps growing some plants in the garden by the tomatoes, any desires?
We live in a condo. We don't have that option, but I know family members who are certainly planning to do that.
I'm here with Jonathan, ER doctor extraordinaire. Doctor, it's been 1 week since legalization. Have you noticed anything out of sorts or anything new in the emergency room?
No, we haven't really noticed any change in the emergency room. There's been no increase in cannabis-induced complications that we've noticed.
There's been nothing new, no big change as to your regular day-to-day?
Absolutely zero change in my regular day-to-day work.
Any surprise in that regard?
No, definitely not. I wasn't expecting any increase whatsoever.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Doctor.
My pleasure.
We've heard from locals and from an emergency room doctor. Now I'm meeting with a budding entrepreneur, someone whose business could have been directly impacted from the last week. How has the past week changed anything for you? Has it changed?
I would say it's changed a little bit. I've definitely seen a few sort of old clients crawling out of the woodwork, people who used to go to their neighborhood dispensaries, but they can't anymore because they're all shutting down. A lot of the neighborhood dispensaries are closing up in hopes of getting a retail license to go legit.
Have some of these older clients come back with new requests? Are they looking for different types of products that perhaps a dispensary would have stocked?
Sometimes, yeah. I've gotten a lot more requests for edibles. Definitely some people have asked me if I know where to get extracts.
And in terms of smoking other products, we've got hash oil. Speak on that. What sort of demand are you seeing on that?
A lot more demand for shatter, which is sort of the main thing that goes into dabs. When people smoke dabs, it's a high potency extract or oil.
Cannabis was legalized a week ago, and on day one, Nova Scotia reported in excess of $600,000 of revenue. Now we're hearing that some licensed producers have actually run dry. Is this a gap in the market that you can take advantage of, and is your supply affected?
I mean, definitely something that I can take advantage of in the short term. People have definitely been coming to me because, the legal avenues are not available right now. Some people just aren't really happy with the method of distribution that the governments have been using. That being said, I think the licensed producers have really set themselves up for long-term growth, and I think that any disparity in supply is temporary.
For Midas Letter Live, this is JB Lauzon.
I think that was definitely the most well-spoken drug dealer that
I think you'd be
could ever
amazed
want.
at who's involved in illicit activity at what levels. I mean, when there's ever money involved,
Yeah.
I think you'd be amazed at how many straight people are doing things that aren't so straight. Anyway, that's just a general statement.
Okay, I'll take your word for
Like
it.
world leaders,
And-
for instance.
For instance, yeah.
Anyway,
We also have a story, and I thought that was really interesting from the perspective of the people who were willing to talk about legalization and actually had thought about what difference would it make, and it was like I felt like it was Y2K. Before the year 2000, there was this
I remember
right
very well.
Anyway, we'll do another story maybe in 6 months and see how what's changed then. We also, as you know, this whole supply versus demand.
yes.
It's like it reminds me of Christmas. Every year, Christmas is December 25th. Every year on the 24th, people run out going, "I haven't got my shopping done. I don't have enough time." It's like, no, you had 364 days, just like last year. So how is it that there could be a shortage? Well, we decided to find out.
Okay.
So 1 week after legalization, and it's still like Costco on a Saturday. So many people, long lines, not enough product, and frazzled employees that have to break the news they've just run out of Sour Kush and Snow Dome. The crazy part? Industry experts saw this coming.
We developed some statistical models and we looked at historical data on medicinal marijuana in Canada over the past 2 years. And what we predicted is that in the first year of legalization, there'd roughly be about a 30 to 60% shortage of supply going to retail stores. And what our predictions were is that we'd probably see the supply shortage manifest itself somewhere down the pipeline, maybe about 3-4 months, but not this quickly.
I ordered $70,000 worth of cannabis from one of the licensed producers, and when my first shipment showed up, it was only less than 20% of my order. I opened at midnight till 2 a.m. and at that time, all my pre-rolls were sold. I opened up again 9 o'clock that morning, and believe it or not, I sold out at exactly 4:20 the first day.
We're going to legalization and fully recreational. And we have producers who were used to producing much smaller amounts meant for the medicinal market. So that jump from a very small market to a population of 30 million was pretty significant. And they just weren't ready for that. My feeling is that the government simply didn't put enough resources in to the process. To get a license to be a producer, it's pretty strict. In this market, it just takes a long time period. All these factors probably explain why we're seeing the supply shortage manifest so quickly.
Here in Ontario, there's been non-stop complaints about the Ontario Cannabis Store. Everything from late shipments to canceled orders to lack of communication, not to mention the good old rotating postal strike. Cannabis producers, however, say they are living up to their end of the deal.
I expect Canopy will sell everything we have, but what we have is the capacity to fill the quantities we committed to the provinces. So we broke down their orders, and we looked at it per month, and we looked at weekly shipping. what'll happen is we will sell everything we grow. So there's always growing, earning, creating pains. But I think that the shortage or the demand will exceed the supply for at least a year.
It's unfortunate, but this is a brand new market space, a brand new industry when it comes to recreational. As much as all licensed producers wanted to prepare, you just can't catch everything.
If these shortages continue, it's a big problem. Instead of legalization resulting in the eradication of the black market, it's going to lead to a flourishing black market and lost tax revenue for the government.
For Midas Letter Live, I'm Liz West.
Well,
thank you for having me on.
And you're leaving us so soon?
I am. I've got to get back to work. Okay?
Are you going to leave right now?
No, I'm going to wait till, the right time.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so thank you very much for those informative pieces.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
There will be more where that came from.
We like it. We like
good,
it.
good.
So look, it looks like we got a pretty good bounce today in the marijuana space. I'm going to put up the indices here that we normally look at, that they're Midas Letter indices, just to get an idea of where the action is. And
let's go to Ben first.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ben first, and then we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to Ben.
You know what? There's been a change here, folks. We're going to see Ben Smith. And Ben and I had an interesting conversation today about some of the developments in the marijuana
big
space.
News. It's actually big news.
Well, the beer companies are suffering. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Midas Letter Live. I'm your host, Ed Milewski. Today we have our senior writer, Ben Smith, talking to us from his home. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ed. How are you?
I'm fine. I mean, I'm astounded by the volatility in these markets, not only the marijuana space, but the big markets in New York as well. And there's lots of shots being fired over the bow. Things are moving dramatically in both directions.
Yeah, I think the market's been hit by sort of a confluence of factors.
Yes.
Building on that volatility, of course, we had the post-legalization sell-off, which was expected by many traders out there. But I think that's been exacerbated by broad market weakness in the S&P and the Dow Jones and NASDAQ as well. And as more uplistings occur on some of these stocks, of course, they get controlled more by the broad market movements as well. So it's not just trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange anymore. We're getting more into deep technicals, and some of these moves are affected by broad market weakness.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday that the S&P futures were down 45 points at one point late in the afternoon, and I looked today at one point and they were up almost 40 points, and so it's pretty hard. I mean, if you're a trader, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I mean, there's some big moves right now. It's not a buy and hold scenario we're in, like maybe we've been, or some people describe, just buy it and forget about it. I don't think you can do that right now. We're in a state of flux, looks like.
Yeah, I think so, Ed. It's very much like that. I mean, this is what you would call a trader's dream right now, where volatility, the swings intraday are 2-3% at a time. It's definitely not a buy and hold scenario right now for long only investors. I think the technicals sort of have to line up a little bit better to be comfortable to hold some of these positions long term. For example, I wrote yesterday a piece on Canopy Growth and how a key technical on the upside is an hourly close above the 42.5 level. Once you get that base building level in, then the bulls can be more confident that they have a backstop in case that level were to give way with an hourly close below that. In the last few days, it's just been cascading lower, and there's been no real backstop to hold that action. So right now, there's a consolidation pattern going on in CGC, and that's driving the market. Once you see it get above 42.5, we could be looking at a good 10 to 15% rally in broad market cannabis stocks.
Yeah, I've traded for 40 years. I've been in investments for 40 years. Hard to believe. And when I see like a sharp sell-off like we saw in the sector, and you know, I have an accounting background, so I look at valuations and I do this, but I'm more and more now, you know, I have certain technical indicators I look at. I think personally that the next move of any consequence is going to be to the upside, because I've seen this happen now so often. You know, there's a lot of shorts out there. They get caught. The markets start to move slowly at first, and they start to acquiesce. Like they'll start buying, and that'll give the longs or the guys that want to go long some confidence. So I think, you know, we saw after that last week. That last week was brutal. You know, a lot of our big ones were off of, you know, 30%, 40%. Sometimes it's hard to step in, but it's also been my experience. You step in when it looks like you shouldn't step in, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, it's tremendously hard to do, and we've seen this time and time again in the sector. Now, personally, I've been a little bit surprised by the weakness, by the veracity of the weakness, just based on the fact that cannabis is now legal, and you have a lot of good factors coming out of the United States in terms of chatter about spring or cannabis reform this spring, and a lot of good things coming out from that side as well. So I think most people expected the sell-off, but the veracity of the sell-off has been quite dramatic.
Yeah.
But once we get the higher low in some of the bigger names like Canopy Growth,
Sure.
again, 42.50 is a big point, an hourly close above that on above trend volume. Then you're going to start to see more people, I think, step in with confidence.
I came close to buying some Aphria today, and I didn't, but you know, around $14, and I think it hit 16, so $2 already on 14 is like 1 out of 7. It's 14, 15%. Big moves. These are big moves. Like, if you're wrong, like if you're short and you didn't cover this morning, you're thinking, what the hell do I do? And you start, you know, do I want to hold this? Anyway, you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's huge moves, big moves all over the place. And I think complicating factors as well is Aphria's recent uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange. Now, a couple times previous to Aphria uplisting, Canopy Growth did as well in May, and it ran about 20% going into listing on the NYSE 10 days later. And then you had, of course, Aurora Cannabis recently. They announced their uplisting on Midas Letter. Cam Batley broke the news here, and they ran, you know, a good 150% over the next 3 weeks or so. So, I mean, if you're an investor looking for that same move in Aphria, with that uplisting, you have to be cognizant that we're in a different market, and that market conditions are also driving sentiment. So it's very complicated for the average retail investor out there, which is why, you know, we do a lot of technical writing on the website to help folks out.
Yeah, I like technicals because to me, you know, how do you piece it together? It sounds simple, but after a prolonged move in one direction, you know you're going to get a correction from that. You know, nothing goes in one way. You know, I can show you a million charts, and they go both ways, don't they? They do.
Oh, absolutely. And again, complicating the whole scenario is the fact that sentiment changes. So, I mean, you could have one scenario like the New York Stock Exchange uplisting on on Aurora and Canopy, and then the very same thing happen in a different market environment, and the exact opposite can occur. So.
I know. And so look at what do you think? Do you think there's any big tobacco coming into the? You know, we've had Constellation Brands, we've had, you know, talk of this, talk of that. You see anything out there? You hearing anything? Is there anything that maybe is right around the corner that might put some bravado back into these companies?
Well, there's two parts to that question. I do think I'm very confident that big tobacco and big beverage is going to enter the space. As we saw today, I don't know if you saw it, but Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, they missed earnings by, I think, 18 cents, and they cut their dividend in half. So
wow.
I mean, that's huge. Beer is not selling at the present time. There's no growth in that environment. Molson announced the same thing in February, where unit sales were down on all continents. So will they come in? Absolutely. Now, the only qualifier to that is with the regulations and talk of spring cannabis reform in the United States in 2019.
Yes.
The question I have is, will the Altrias and Cokes of the world, will they wait to see how that environment is shaping up come winter? Because I think ultimately they may want to partner up with some of the vertically integrated cannabis companies down there, if possible. I mean, you're looking at lower corporate taxes, you're looking at a cheaper operating environment, power costs less, and so forth. So are they going to wait, or are they going to pull the trigger now with valuations down? I think I sort of waffle on that a bit, but either way, it's going to happen, in the next 2 or 3 quarters for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned beer, and I heard a little while ago that beer sales were off. Is it because of competition? I mean, is there just more people entering, more microbreweries, more craft beers are out there? I mean, it seems like everywhere I go, people are drinking beer like crazy, but maybe it's just a lot of competition. I don't know what the answer is. It demographics?
Well, I think it's all the above, Ed. I think demographics are definitely play a part in it. Of course, a lot of the people who are coming to North America, they may not be alcohol consumers in general. I think you have attitudes changing with some younger people as well, who there's studies out there who've demonstratively shown that younger people are choosing cannabis over beer.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit different times that the young people are growing up with, and also some of the demographics changing with new people coming in. I think that's factoring into it. So yeah, they're having a tough time all over the globe. It's not just a North American phenomenon.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, Ben, I really enjoyed talking to you. You seem like you know a lot about a lot of different things, and I hope we have another chance soon to do this again.
Absolutely, Ed. It's good talking to you as well, and I'll be in the office tomorrow. So
we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, perfect. Hey, Ben, you have a wonderful day, rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
You as well, Ed.
Welcome back to Midas Letter Live, and today we have a little different. We're out of the marijuana space. We've got Steve Dunn back, CEO of Crown Mining. Of course, we have Brandon Colwell with us, who's follow the money gentleman. So Steve, mining stocks are shit right now. Let's face it, right? They're out of favor.
Pretty fair.
They're out of favor.
In the toilet.
In the toilet. Yeah. You've got a big asset in California. You own some of the land. Any updates?
Any updates? Well, the last thing we did was we came out with a PEA in February.
Yeah. So this is a big historic deposit.
Yes. There's 2 billion pounds of copper in a 43-101. And when Placer was working on the property in the 60s, they thought there was 4 billion pounds. And the interesting thing is back then, they were only looking for deposits that were perhaps 200-300 meters deep. So most of our property, most of the deposit that we have is actually open at depth, and it's open on strike. So there's a lot more copper there.
There's a lot of copper there.
Yeah, more than Placer thought, more than what we have in our 43-101.
How many, the ticker, by the way, is CWM.
Yes.
40 million shares roughly.
Yes.
And stocks trading 8-9 cents. So let's say 10 cents, it's capped at $4 million.
That's right.
Which is a fraction of
the way
value.
To put it into perspective is in the last copper cycle, which was basically 2006 to 2012, copper companies were being taken over at approximately 10 cents per pound of copper. So we have 2 billion pounds of copper times 10 cents, $200 million.
And right now,
and our market cap is $4 million. And we're not the only one. Every single company in this space has no...
You don't have special copper there, you just have copper.
We have copper, and we need higher prices to get people interested, but the entire sector is undervalued. The entire sector, nobody's interested in it. Yeah. All the producers right now are making a lot of money. Freeport came out today. Their cash flow in the first 9 months of this year is $4 billion. Their market cap is $16 billion. And this is with copper at $2.80.
Yeah. So they had cash flow?
Cash flow of $4 billion in the first 9 months.
That's incredible. And so it's trading at 4 times cash flow.
Right, right. Copper Mountain, I've talked to you about that before. Yeah. They have cash flow approximately $100 million a year. Their market cap is $200 million. Like it makes no sense.
Right.
One of these days, people will see there's value here.
And unlike gold, which is a bit of a currency and a hedge, copper's needed for growth.
We can't live without it. Everything,
so many things.
It's behind electricity, and electricity is how we get by. It's how we move around.
And the world...
It's how light gets delivered into the office building. It's where heat comes from.
The electrification of the world is continuing. It's faster and faster.
That's right. Electricity demand basically comes from 2 things, population growth and urbanization. And there's no stopping that. Like the people in India, the people in China, they want what we have. There's no stopping demand for copper. So
yeah, I remember a few years ago as well reading about that we were going into a shortage of copper, a severe one. And they were saying, I think it was by 2018 or 19 it was going to begin, and by 2020 it was going to be bad.
Huge, we're already there. We're already in a deficit.
Yeah.
We have been in a deficit, I think, for the past 6, 9, 12 months.
So for the viewers, that means that they're producing less than's being consumed.
That's right.
Every year.
That's right. And what's making up for it right now is the inventory levels that were out there. So the inventory is basically making up the shortfall, but that can only go on for so long. And you've also got there's a huge player in the market space right now, and that's China. Like they basically buy half of all the copper that's consumed.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about, copper on a big macro level, there's approximately 20 million tons produced. There's 25 million that's actually consumed, and the difference is scrap.
Yeah.
But if you look at that 25 million tons times approximately $3 a pound, that's $150 billion space. So it's in China's interest to keep prices as low as they can. Like if they can drive prices down by 10%, which is what they just did, they save themselves $7 billion. But in the long run, they're going to put themselves in a corner because nobody's going to build any new copper mines with copper prices at $2.80.
Yeah.
Like we need basically $3.50.
So $3.50 is like a historical average.
No, that's basically when you take a look at all the copper deposits that are out there, on average they need $3.50 to justify the spend, because it costs a lot of money to build these things.
Yeah.
So we're looking, basically Crown and any of these other juniors is an option on copper. If you think demand for copper in the future is going to continue, and if you think the supply side is going to continue to roll over, then you'll think prices need to go up. So, a good way to get some exposure to copper is some of these junior companies, and Crown is one of them.
Yeah, Robert Friedland, who's legendary and has found some very big deposits worldwide, I think he's quoted as saying that, as time goes on, copper won't be quoted in pounds, it'll be quoted in ounces because, I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Well, there's crazy forecasts out there right now. Like this cycle, there are people like Friedland who are calling for numbers like $6, $7 a pound.
Wow.
And can you imagine how much these mining companies are going to be making if copper prices go there?
Sure.
Like, just take a look at Freeport. They came out today. They produce 4 billion pounds of copper a year. They have cash flow of $4 billion in the first 9 months. Copper goes up $1. Like there's another $4 billion in cash flow.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing. Nobody can just go build a mine in a year. Like it takes 5, 6, 7 years to get a mine permitted and then built.
Right.
So there's no short-term solution here.
Yeah, and that's what I remember hearing actually a few years ago when we were looking at it from an economic standpoint. You've got a shortage that's looming. We already knew it, but because of prices being down, nobody was really going out there to create these mines that do take years, especially if it's starting from scratch. And now we're having it where we're having a supply crunch. Anybody has any idea of economics understands if your supply is not there and the demand starts rising, which it will with all these electric cars, electric houses, whatever it be, that's when you have to start realizing that prices are, if you're able to, if there's two people and I only have enough for one, I'm going to see how much I can charge for it, and I don't care who wins. Like that's what all businesses are asking themselves.
Well, if you take a look at the PowerPoints of all the major mining companies like Rio Tinto, BHP, they all talk about how the future for copper is so rosy. They all want to be there, and they're looking around the globe trying to find new copper deposits, but there aren't a lot of them.
And the grades of the deposits are a lot lower today than they were 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, the low-hanging fruit gets picked
off.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Escondido, which is the largest producing mine, I'm pretty sure. Its grade, when they started mining there, I think 35 years ago, was 1.45%. They're now mining down around 0.65. So it's just, they're going deeper and deeper. They're not getting, that's in Chile. They're not getting the same grades, so they're having to move twice as much ore to get the same amount of copper. But they're getting deeper and deeper, so it gets more expensive to dig the rock out. Like we've got a looming problem here in the copper space, and if you're positioned, you're going to make some good money. I don't know when it's going to happen. I thought it was going to be this year.
Last week we saw a day where there was 1,200,000 shares of Crown trade, and if you go back and look at a 10-year chart, that was the biggest trading day in volume in 10 years, 1.2 million. There's not that much stock. There's only 40 million shares.
40 million.
And 70% of it's probably tied up in pretty friendly hands.
That's right. Like I have 20%. I've got a few friends that each have almost 10%.
This is a way of playing copper futures without the risk, right?
Right, yeah, you're not going to get a margin call.
You're not going to get a margin call.
It's not going to expire on you.
And whereabouts, I might have missed it in the very beginning, whereabouts is the mine?
The property itself is approximately 90 miles drive from Reno.
Okay.
And we're northwest. So we're in California, but we're very close to the Nevada border.
Northwest of Reno, northeast
right.
California.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's mountainous, and it's very, very rural. Where we are, there's nobody around. And it's like I said, it's two old mines. They were mining this back in the 1915 to 1930 period. And they were actually mining back then. They were taking copper out. The grade was averaging around 2%, and they left anything that was not 2% behind. So that's what we have.
It's probably way easier now to mine, I can imagine, as well. What we've done the last 100 years.
You should, like
now it's economical now.
Back in those days, they got there by horse, and eventually they put a railway in there. But I can't imagine how hard it would have been, the life, to be a miner back in those days. To be a prospector, to be a miner. They had dynamite and stuff like that, but they used horses to get a lot of things out. And then finally the rails came in. But all that infrastructure is still there. We've got a paved highway that goes right up to within 100 yards of our adit.
Right.
So we've got electricity there, we've got running water.
So if you said based on how many holes did Placer drill there, 400 or 500?
Placer drilled, there was over 400 holes back in the 60s.
And to drill it properly, you could drill another 1,000 holes, couldn't you?
You know what? If a major took a look at this property, they would probably drill another 200 to 300.
Okay.
And because what they would want to do is just further define how much was there, where the extensions were, and do drilling which is necessary for the actual mine design. But we already know we've got a couple billion pounds, and a little bit more drilling, we can increase that, but we don't need to. It's, it's the resource is there.
Yeah.
So if you're buying a marijuana stock, you might say you're buying a growth story, a momentum play. If you're buying Crown, you're buying value. But we don't know when. You don't know when, and it's not. We're not saying buy it today. I started buying it a year ago. Do I wish I waited? Sometimes, but I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like the electrification of the world's going to continue.
Yeah. Most likely.
Well, you wonder, like what you never know what's coming around the corner. There's some funny things going on in the world, but most of the automakers are said, we're going electric. It's 4 times the amount of copper.
Yeah.
An electric
car. But the other thing, which is huge, which I think a lot of people miss, is when they build a megawatt of power using wind or solar, they're using more copper to actually deliver that megawatt of power. Like they're using 4 to 5 times as much copper to actually deliver it. And then here's the other neat thing. Battery storage is going to become huge in the future, because the only way wind really makes sense, and I think most of the engineers are going to admit this, but the only way wind makes sense is if you can store it, because most of the time wind power is produced when you don't need it.
Does that
and the global adjustment fee.
Kathleen wind making sense, or wind? I'm sorry, I got that mixed up.
There's a reason why they had 7 seats after, but anyway.
Yeah, that's right. But battery storage is hugely copper intensive. Because just think about it. You've got to have all these copper wires sending the electricity to whatever battery formula you're going to use, and then get it back to the grid.
Yeah.
So it's hugely copper intensive.
Yeah.
So there's so many new avenues. There's so many different sources of demand for copper in the renewable, sustainable energy model.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, you cannot stop this demand for electricity. You cannot stop it. The whole world wants what we have.
Yeah, for sure. Steve, we're going to have to wrap it up now.
Okay.
But thanks again for coming on in short notice.
Thank you for having me on your show.
I met you here a year ago.
That's right.
Dr. Copper. Where's it going to come from? So here we are, a year later.
Yeah.
But still convinced.
We're still here. We're still going to make sure my shareholders make money.
CWM on the venture. The copper's there. We're just waiting for the price.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're switching over to, we've got a clip to show. Hi, Hampton. HC.
And we interviewed Scovenna today.
Very nice.
Christian. He's someone I've known. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Midas Letter Live. I'm Ed Milewski. Today we have Christian Scovenna with us. He's the new CEO of Hampton. Hampton is a cannabis story that's developing exclusively in California.
Correct.
And now there's been a couple of announcements. I mean, one of them, the big one here, is that you're the new CEO.
Correct.
And I think I probably met you probably a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a little bit longer than that.
Maybe a little longer, yeah.
And then back to your investment advisor days.
Yeah, and then, right.
Yes.
Right, way back, yeah, but when I was probably not so sober all the time. Anyway, Christian, and I remember we had a nice Christmas party with your group.
About a year ago?
Yeah. How time flies.
Absolutely.
So look, I see you just picked up a new.
We've announced a new acquisition, but first and foremost, just want to thank you for having us, having Hampton on the Midas Letter today. It's greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that. So Hampton, we've been around since September of 2017, so roughly almost 14 months now. We've been trading.
Right.
Trade on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol HC. Hampton, we are a cannabis company focused in the state of California in the United States. And our objective is to be a premier consolidator in the cannabis space, being a fully vertically integrated company.
So you're going to be growing. You're going to at Coachella County. You have an operation
in the city of Coachella. Correct. Yes. So we will be. We bought the property. It was just under 11 acres about a year ago in the city of Coachella. For the purpose to build out a fully integrated grow facility. and that will be a greenhouse looking at roughly about 254,000 square foot greenhouse facility, and that will also include a 56,000 square foot head house
How far is Coachella from LA?
It's about a 2.5-hour drive. So
is it flat there?
Yes, pretty much. So if the drive from LA going down into Palm Springs area is mountainous, and that. But once you get down into the valley, it's pretty flat. But typically, you just fly direct to Palm Springs, and then it's about a 25-minute drive from there.
And you've made some a number of acquisitions.
Correct.
In the last 14 months. I know there's the company CaliGold.
Correct.
And then there's Mojave Jane.
Mojave Jane. So just recently, and for the viewers here, we announced
This was announced this week.
On Tuesday. So
the stock was 33 cents, and now it's 46 cents or something.
I think, I looked at it last before I came in here. It's about 45, 46 cents. So on Tuesday, we announced a binding LOI with Mojave Jane.
Right.
Mojave Jane is a fully licensed California producer. Mojave Jane is in the extraction business, and they have license for volatile and non-volatile production of the distillates.
Is that sort of CBD versus THC, or is that a different?
It'll be a combination of both.
Okay.
Of both.
Okay.
And that. So, what this does for the company, and more specifically for our shareholders, it's going to be adding shareholder value.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, when we look at numerous opportunities and looking at acquisitions, our model is we want to provide value. We provide value by acquiring at a low valuation.
Right.
And secondly, we're looking for top line revenue. So this company, Mojave Jane, they had, they've been producing very small amounts that they've been bootstrapped or cash strapped.
Sure. So you can help them in that respect.
Correct. Yeah. So part of the deal within the binding LOI is that we will acquire 100% of all the members' interest of Mojave Jane.
And will you now with the people that Mojave Jane, are they going to stay in this?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they're going to become part of Hampton, right?
Yeah, they'll be.
It's a cash and stock deal, correct?
Correct, it is. Yes, correct. So we are acquiring them for $3.5 million in an all-stock acquisition, and then there's a cash commitment of $1.1 million spread over a period of time.
And can you say how long that time is?
So what that means is that it'll bring in roughly approximately $1.25 million on a top line revenue basis on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at roughly about $15 million
wow.
on that. So that will allow us to have some cash flow to go out, acquire other vehicles or private companies.
How many key people do they have?
Currently, right now, it's the two partners.
Okay.
And they're chemists, and they have a couple of other part-time.
And are they nearby?
So interesting enough, they are in the city of Coachella, and they are in the same cannabis commercial park where we have our beachhead Coachella Grow property, in which we are going to be building out the greenhouse facility.
Right. So it looks like you'll be spending a bit of time in California.
Absolutely.
Not a bad location.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. And so just remind the viewers, you've been public now for
roughly 14 months.
14 months, and there's about 90 million shares?
94 million shares outstanding right now.
And your bank account is quite healthy?
Correct.
Yeah. And do you have other things on the horizon that you're looking at this point? I mean, I'm sure you're probably
absolutely. I think the amount of potential acquisitions that come through my desk and the rest of our team as well is plentiful. So we look at every potential acquisition and look at it, mainly to make sure that if we are going to proceed on one of these acquisitions, that it's creating shareholder value for the company.
Yes.
And there's a lot of companies out in California right now that have been around for ages, and the medicinal cannabis market in California has been legalized for 20 plus years.
Right.
The recreational side went legal January 1st of 2018 of this year, and that. So, California is kind of going through what we see here in Canada, with Canada just having the legalization on October 17th here.
Sure.
So, a lot of the counties are going through some regulations and trying to figure out, how things are going to be done accordingly. And but that being said, there are a lot of companies out there, may it be producers to extraction companies to whatever it may be, that are just cash strapped. And
smaller operations.
Absolutely.
That if you add like 1 and 1 and 1, it comes up to 5 as opposed
exactly.
to
Exactly. So one of the reasons why we went after the Mojave Jane acquisition is that we felt the synergies between the other acquisitions that we've previously made throughout 2018, and the two that stick out is the CaliGold. You mentioned them previously before. So we acquired them in Q3 of this year, another all-share transaction, and CaliGold is based out of Oakland. CaliGold produces edible, medicinal grade chocolate bars. They have roughly about 8 SKUs right now. They're looking to bring out another 6 to 8 new products.
Yes.
So we're be happy to get that out to the market and announce that to our shareholders as well. So so with having them and having Mojave Jane and doing the extractions, there's definitely some synergies. We can increase buying power as well. And then more importantly, with the acquisition of 8 Points Management, who's located in West Sacramento, just north of Los Angeles, they are a distribution port for us. So when it comes to products, we can then vend in any of those products within the 8 Points Management framework and have that distributed.
Yeah, and I was talking to James West, who's in California as we speak, and he tells me it's the advertising in the space is a lot more aggressive.
Absolutely.
Like billboards.
Everywhere you go, and I spend a lot of time in LA and just outside of LA, and then obviously down in Coachella. But in the downtown core of the city of Los Angeles, there's billboards all over the place.
Sure.
There's groups that you don't even know of, but then you see the likes of MedMen. They're all over the place.
Right.
And that, so it's a little
more
bit more
people live in California than do in
well,
Canada. It's all there.
Exactly.
Tons of money.
Exactly. And so, you bring up a good point. A lot of people have always said to me and said to, to our company is, why California? And our rebuttal to that is why not?
Sure.
California has roughly almost 10 more million in population than the whole of Canada. You have the big boys here, the likes of Aurora.
There's probably some people there that aren't in the registers. I won't go into that.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so I wanted to ask a question here, and then it escapes me. So you sitting on cash, and so when do you think you'll be starting to generate some revenue? I guess if you make this acquisition with Mojave.
Correct.
There should be some.
Yeah, so I don't want to make any forward-looking statements, but I believe, and we are, anticipating with the cash injection into Mojave Jane, looking at their projections, looking at, with the machinery, everything, the extraction units that they have, we actually will not have to go out and buy any new extraction units. So that's a big advantage for us. And as I said, we are going to be able to bring their production from 30 liters up to 100 liters, yielding roughly $1.25 million on a monthly top line, monthly basis. So, and with our distribution out in West Sacramento with 8 Points Management, they have been progressing tremendously, and the guys there with Wes Miyake and Lirahan, who are behind that company, they've done a tremendous job in getting that facility up and running.
Are these people consultants to you?
So they are subsidiaries of High Hampton. They're part of our High Hampton family.
And did I hear you say, or did you mention that there were some additional consulting people coming on stream, or there were some announcements to that respect?
No, we just announced a new independent director, and that would be Cam Burge.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Cam Burge was the former CFO for Australis. Trades on the CSE. They are the spin out of the U.S. assets from Aurora Cannabis, based here in Canada.
So he's come on your board.
Yeah. So he was announced on Monday.
Okay.
And that so Cam brings multiple years of capital markets experience. More importantly, within the cannabis space. He's also part of CTT Pharmaceuticals, in which I believe he actually spearheaded that, and Aurora has done a deal with that company. And I'm not sure
if
when that
looking
was
down
done.
the road, and without knowing, I understand it's difficult to predict the future, but would you say you're going to end up being 50-50 in terms of medical versus recreational, or do you think?
That's a good question. That's something that is always proposed or brought up by our shareholders, and I believe the California market right now, it's strong in both of the medicinal and the rec, and we are gearing more so on the medicinal side. It's been around for 20 plus years.
Yes.
But there will be a time where yes, we will jump into that full steam ahead on that. I think just looking at the economics on it and what we're seeing here in Canada, the amount of growth in that space is pretty big.
More and more people are saying that the rumor is that Trump is definitely looking at making it federally legal for medical purposes as an initial foray. But I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, and I don't really want to speculate either, but I think, there's been lots of conversations. I'm not a politician by any means, but, a lot of people have been, and what I've been reading as well is that, Trump may legalize cannabis across the country just before the end of his first term is up. But that's all speculation, and we'll just have to sit back and see what happens there. But our main focus as a company is to drive and keep driving and getting shareholder value into the company. And it's our whole philosophy of consolidating California. And so when you look at Ed, when you look at everything that we have done to date so far, besides having our beachhead operation being the Coachella Grow facility or property that we have and will be breaking ground probably within about 3 to 4 months. There's a lot of stuff that we have to work up to before we can do that. One thing I didn't mention, we actually brought on ALPS, which is the Aurora Larson Special Projects, and that is Thomas Larson and his team, world-renowned greenhouse specialist that was recently, I believe, actually it may have been at the end of Q4 of last year where Aurora acquired him. So what we're going to see and what our shareholders can see by us bringing ALPS on is that it's going to be a fully automated greenhouse system, potentially increasing our yields up to anywhere from 20 to 25%, bringing down operational costs and that. So they've been a great addition, and we welcome having their expertise on that project. So as I said, we have that, but what we've done is we've positioned all of our acquisitions throughout California. So if you look at all the way up to the top, being the northern part of where we've actually done one of our acquisitions is CaliGold. They're located in Oakland. And then you have the 8 Points Management, which is in West Sacramento. We've acquired a company called 420 Realty, which has 5 licenses on there. It's in the city of Cudahy, which is just southeast of downtown LA, and then we'll have our Coachella Grow operation, and now bringing on or potentially bringing on Mojave Jane once we close on that transaction. It actually gives High Hampton one of the largest footprints when it comes to distribution, because we'll have distribution in Oakland, West Sacramento, Cudahy, and then eventually down in Coachella and that. And
that sounds great. Christian, thanks for coming by.
Thank you very much, Ed,
for having us on. And we hope that you'll come back soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And tell us the rest of the story as it develops. So, folks, High Hampton, ticker is HC, been around public for 14 months, lots of cash, good management. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate it.
Well, that interview with Christian Scovenna, lots of things going on with High Hampton. I mean, again, to talk about volatility, we saw it down about 33 cents, and I think today it hit 48.
Oh, it's been
That's
crazy.
That's 15 cents on 33.
Crazy.
That's about 43% or some number. You probably know the exact percentage. Anyway, there's a lot of deals out there. There's a lot of volatility. I don't think it's a buy and hold market. What do you think? Do you think it's a buy and hold market?
I used to because I'm a fundamentalist at heart.
Right.
Until you
and you probably made a lot of money because you.
I did before, but now it's coming to a point where these stocks. Like if you're going to buy and hold, you're going to go through 3 or 4 waves.
Yeah.
If you can
absolutely
take that little bit of rip. Like look what happened on was it Monday where everything was just capitulation at its finest. People were just giving up like crazy. I thought there was going to be a sell on news, but not like that. And it was down 30 to 40% in the last 3 or 5 days. But then yesterday, early in the morning, it was down again another 20% and then rebounded.
I know.
So you're down 20%. A lot of people started buying. The bulls started coming in. You started seeing things rise. They were up at like 5-7% plus.
I know. And you get a nice position in something. I mean, I bought Trust today, and I made a little bit of money. I traded it. I was going to buy Aphria, and I didn't. Aphria went from around 14 to 16. Yeah. Now, if someone bought it at 14 and sold it at 15 and a half, it's a nice trade.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
It's not bad at all. And you can sleep. You can sleep knowing you got some bills paid for whatever.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the whole buy and hold aspect when it comes to cannabis right now, those people are hurting unless they were the buy and the hold from years ago. You're still fine. You're still fine because you don't care about that. But if you've done that recently, I think you've been burned.
I did nothing for when I was a broker from 2000 and sort of from the March of 2000. There was a guy that came on and said, "This is after Y2K, and the reality set in, and there was nothing, right?" and I started shorting because they said that the NASDAQ was 3 standard deviations from a moving average. 3 standard deviations. He says, "I've never seen that." It had moved up so crazily. Yeah. So I started shorting stocks and I stayed short, and it was the right thing to do. But you still have to, Nortel went from $120. Nortel was capped at 33% of the entire Toronto Stock Exchange, and it went to 0 and never made $1. So anything can happen, but the game does end. Yeah. And fundamentals do kick in.
Yeah, I think we're close to that. So, I always liked arguing with the people who said that cannabis is like the dot-com bubble, just simply because the dot-com bubble, just like you said, they never sold $1. They didn't really have anything. Cannabis, you have a product. Yes. And you have something that is seriously in high demand. Look at all of our stores. We're running dry. Yeah. All these other countries are starting to come legal, so there's going to be a product. But are some of these prices a little bit, the market cap's a little ahead of where they are? Absolutely.
Well, you know what? When you see some quality names get cut, a third lopped off in a week. Yeah. When we saw that, we saw
all of them.
20, Aphria, but then we saw
16.20 right now.
16.20, and I picked one that hardly moved. Yeah. See, that's the problem, right?
What's CanTrust is actually a little bit red, 10.05.
Yeah, I think I bought it this morning on the open and sold it at 10 1/4 after it but doesn't matter. Aphria. Yeah. What about ACB? What's ACB doing?
Aurora's at 9.55 percent. Canopy's at 51.53. Interesting enough, one that's been absolutely going all over the place is Namaste. And a lot of people who are watching, they don't understand the number. Whether you hate them or love them, if you're a trader, you cannot do anything but love them. They're going up and down 20-25% in a day, 2 days. The volatility with them has been insane. But not too many other big movers. You got Kronos is up 11%, or Indiva is up 11%. Bliss is up 11.5%. So it's all over the place. But I was honestly expecting a little bit better of a recovery from this after being decimated.
Well, the other thing I learned when you get what we just went through in a week. This is over years of looking at these things. It starts off slowly because people are still catching their breath. Yeah. And so today we had a positive day, right? You could have, if you were long, and let's say you bought 3-4 days ago and you were still long, you're probably shitting yourself this morning thinking, what are these things going to open at?
Yeah.
And so, again, maybe I have the days wrong, but I would say we'll probably now make the shorts a little nervous for a while, like, because the shorts have had their way.
You're keeping up a bit.
You know, so if you're short and you didn't cover, Aphria, for instance, you're thinking, what was I waiting for?
Yeah.
It goes from 20 bucks to 14, and you didn't cover. Now it's 16. You think, well, I'll wait till it comes back to 14. Let's say it goes to 17 or 18.
Now you're sweating.
It's fear and greed, right?
Yeah.
And famous investors have said, you buy to maximum pessimism and sell to maximum optimism.
Yeah.
Easy to say, hard to do.
Very hard to do.
Very hard to do.
Times I've watched a stock where I was up 600% and I ended up selling when I was like up like 150. I'm like, well, there goes 300 or 400%.
You know, guys who had Bell Canada back in 2000 were gifted Northern Tel shares.
Yeah.
So let's say you had Bell Canada and you were a dividend holder and you got a bunch of Nortel and Nortel went and in some cases the dividend they paid out for Nortel was worth $1 million to someone who would never know what $1 million was. Yeah. And we had one fellow and his father had Nortel, and I just want to say this because he wouldn't sell it until it kept dropping and dropping, and finally he begged to sell. In other words, the price will dictate, sometimes will force you to do things that you don't want to do. You get scared, you sell. You get greedy, you buy. When it, you know, it's all, you got to be careful.
I think we saw that though on, I don't know what day is it today. It's now Thursday. I think it was Tuesday when we had our capitulation.
Yeah.
Or was it yesterday? I'm getting my days mixed up
I am
now.
too.
But when it was the second really long red day. I think it was Tuesday.
I think it was Tuesday. Tuesday was the day you could have you had some good buys in the morning.
Okay, so then it was Tuesday. But it's amazing that how many people would have been watching it on Friday and seeing some, you know, the institutions were selling.
Yeah.
Then a couple, a little bit more, and then all of a sudden, you got this point where these people are thinking, I can't take it anymore. I think that's what Tuesday was. I can't take it anymore. Yeah. I can't see it go down by this much, and they sold. But what if it was them, and then it went back up, and it was actually a green day for some of them?
Yeah.
That'd be hard. Don't sell out of panic. Sell methodically. If you are going to sell for a loss, fully understand what you're doing. Don't do it out of fear or out of necessity.
So
you need to pay rent that day.
So Brandon, you know, like what causes that is this, that you took too much on to begin with.
Exactly.
So you didn't manage your money properly. If you're in too heavily and you can't sleep, get out of it. Yeah. It's not worth it because you'll do stupid things. And I've done this and I hate to admit it, but you know, you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you're a terrible gambler, you'll lose money.
Yep.
It's just the way it's set up. Greed. Fear and greed, right?
Yeah, invest within your means. But
look at the index here. We got the big index is up 4%, not bad.
Yeah.
And then the others here, another 4 there, 5.7 on the Canadian Venture Index.
They're coming back slowly. They're coming back.
Well,
slowly.
You know what? I'd rather see that because if they come back too fast, like we saw yesterday, we saw some 20% moves, and then they just came back down and tested those lows again.
That's traders. It's dead cat balance when you're starting to see something like that.
But if it's too much too fast, you know, the people sell again, right?
Yeah. I never want those 20%ers. It sounds stupid, and people are like, who's this guy on Midas Letter? I'd actually rather see something gradually go up because you attract less traders from that. You get more stability on your way up, opposed, like you said, you got 20% in a day or two. I mean, people are going to say, I'm okay with 20% and sell it all off right afterwards.
So here we got the big ones, and in the interest of time, I think the big ones are the ones to look at.
Yeah.
So I looked at the list today, and I was contemplating several of these, and I thought, well, I'll go with this one because I've heard of CanTrust. I just want to do a trade because I thought they were low.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few. So that proof, stock picking. If you're going to play the momentum, maybe play the ETF.
Yeah.
You know, like
HMMJ.
HMMJ, and I understand they're coming out with a bearish. That's the bull. You know, if you
Are
want
they coming with an active one or actively traded?
A bear one, one that you can, if they all drop, it goes up. In other words,
What a world, eh? What a world.
I know it is mind-boggling. So look, I guess the big winner here is Aphria. Well, there you go, Aphria.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Aphria.
And it was down to 14 bucks this morning.
Actually, they did very well. Organogram up 63 cents. I think that message about them
12%, yeah, there
getting
you go.
their license back, their organic certification starting to really make its rounds.
Okay.
That's a big thing for them.
Okay.
Big.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
And T-God.
Yeah.
$3.96.
I'm going to hit another one of these indices here in a minute.
What's the overall market doing though? Is this just an overall recovery?
You know what? I think we're gonna jump over and hear from James West. We interviewed him earlier, and we're gonna play that now.
Let's do it.
Okay. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. I'm Ed Milewski, and we're talking to our host, normal host. I don't know if he's normal, but James West has been in California, checking out things there. There's lots of action going on. So everyone say hello to James. James, how you doing?
Hey, Ed, how are you doing?
Doing fine,
Look,
doing fine.
I can almost put my hand on your head here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm doing well, Ed. Just, talking to a lot of people about the cannabis industry down here, cannabis investment. There's a lot of celebrities launching cannabis brands down here, which is interesting. We are talking to Paul Pierce from NBA longtime NBA Hall of Famer, and we'll be doing an interview with him and Shaquille O'Neal at a Weekend Unlimited event on Saturday night. There's even been some discussion of other sort of A-list celebrities who might participate in the event.
Yeah, if you talk to those NBA guys, you need a chair to stand on.
The cannabis industry here is nonstop.
Lots of activity.
Lots of activity. I heard Ben discussing earlier that he thought some of the big consumer packaged goods and branded goods, branded food and beverage companies were going to be looking to partner with U.S.-based cannabis companies over Canadian cannabis companies, and that's an interesting concept. You got to wonder, though, how much the federal prohibition of cannabis in the United States is going to deter anything from happening in the near term. And Ben was suggesting that he wasn't sure whether they were going to wait or start to do stuff now that the whole sector has been revalued at roughly 30% discount. Maybe now's the time to strike. But I still don't think that they're going to prefer American companies to partner with over Canadian ones, because Canada has got such a lead in terms of regularizing access to cannabis for all purposes. And I think even if the U.S. was to start to move towards federal deprohibition, it would still take a long time. And I don't think the consumer packaged goods companies, the food and beverage companies, are really feeling that they're under any kind of pressure to hurry. And, the sales that materialize in the first full quarter, which will be in Q2 2019 in Canada, are really going to tell the tale as to what kind of traction the Canadian recreational cannabis market has, and how much the rec market is displacing or replicating, rather, medical revenues, because some people might now say, well, it's recreational legal, I can go and get it at my store, and I don't have to jump through all the hoops of getting a prescription and seeing a doctor.
Right.
And I think you're going to see a lot of that medical revenue move over to the recreational revenue column, and that's not really going to be representative of any growth. It's just a bit of a shift.
Yeah.
Mind you, you can tell by the sales activity on day one of cannabis legalization in Canada that there is broad and enthusiastic support for the system. I mean, I was customer number 83,000 and something at, I guess it was about noon on Wednesday, October 17th, when they first legalized it. And but my cannabis hasn't arrived yet, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm going to rush out to the black market because, well, I'm in California and there is no black market, or I guess there is a black market, but seriously, the hotel I'm at, there's a MedMen right down the street, and why is this thing going so dark? Hold on.
If it was July, you could say it was Black Day in July. Oh, something.
The stupid camera keeps changing.
Okay, so that seems to be better again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben made an interesting point. Budweiser missed their earnings today and cut their dividend. And, I've heard that beer sales are down, but he's suggesting that marijuana sales are cutting into beer sales, which might make a lot of sense, right? So that might get Budweiser to put some money in the marijuana space.
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that cannabis sales are cutting into alcohol sales to some degree. But I also think that there's quite a shift away from, some segments of the population, especially in California here. There's a real, it's always been sort of the healthy lifestyle state, if you will. And a lot of people here are not really big consumers of alcohol or cannabis. So I've been interviewing a lot of people in the last few days, and it's interesting to me how many people just don't do any sort of recreational substances for intoxication. And, they're without exception the most boring people I've ever met.
High on life.
Yeah, well, that's what they think, but no, I'm just kidding, of course. But
sure.
there's increasing medical pressure to cut down one's alcohol consumption as it pertains to living a long and healthy life. And though some of the parties I've been to, that is the opposite is the case. It looks like the binge drinking culture is alive and well, and particularly in celebrity circles, there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on after dark that obviously we will not be shooting on camera.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I when talking about the markets, I got to tell you, like I looked at everything and I thought to myself, everything has been really hit hard. So probably we're going to see some rally now for a while. Like, this is how it starts, right? It looks like hell. I mean, it looks like real hell. And then next thing you know, it has a day where, a lot of people might have thought that these things would have got hit today, and they didn't. They sort of gelled a bit. And I think I saw Aphria $2 off its low, and they're all, up as the indexes, the indices have shown. They're up nicely today.
Yeah. Well, so that's good news, that the market is rebounding absent any specific catalyst.
Absolutely.
Sort of shows you the elasticity that exists in this market generally.
So you're lots of activity, lots of, meeting a lot of people, lots of opportunities. And
yeah, there's California has an interesting point I'd like to make is I was here in June in Los Angeles. I went to the MedMen stores, and the state of California had just relaunched a testing program that at the time most of the product that was in the supply chain was not able to pass. So it looks to me like they've solved the problems of the companies not being able to pass these tests because the shelves are full again, and there was a lot of product in the stores. In fact, there was a ton. It was overwhelming. You could get anything you want now at MedMen: wax, shatter, butter, diamonds, all these different vape pens, oils, tinctures, pills, candies, cookies, you name it. I mean, it's just like everything has been turned into cannabis. So, when it comes to the idea that the U.S. market, once it becomes legal federally, is going to sort of put the Canadian market out of business, it's not easy to see that might in fact come to pass, because for one thing, in California at least, there's absolutely zero limit on advertising, or so it would appear. We've got apartment building size billboards advertising cannabis stores and specific cannabis brands, and so it's remarkable what's going on.
It's like you're in a different country.
It's like I'm in a different country, yeah.
Okay, well, look at James. We're gonna leave it there. Well, we're back, and we're about to close it up here. We just heard from James from California. Lots going on in the marijuana space, obviously, in California.
Very much so.
Big, 40 million people.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
People sometimes forget that the GDP of California is, if not bigger than Canada or close to
well,
bigger
it's
than
they
Canada.
say I think it's
very close.
The 6th biggest economy in the world. Or it's one of those. I mean, it's in a top.
Yeah. And they legalize everything though. That's the big thing.
I know.
They have edibles, they have drinks, they have the whole spectrum.
I've had some of the chocolates that they make down there, and I'll tell you, whoa, hold on to your
couch locked for a little bit.
Yeah. So look at, we were talking earlier. It's hard to believe. I think Amazon was down $104 or so yesterday, and earlier, just a minute ago, you told me it was up 117.
117. It went up 7.08%.
Yeah. So yesterday was down.
Rebound.
In other words, all take it back. I mean, that's a story that whenever you see, it's such an amazing company, I guess, is how to put it. But wow, I would have never thought it would have come back.
Well, it's crazy to see these companies with such massive market caps move. That's what you see on the juniors. Let alone what is Amazon? Are they over $1 trillion? Is that Apple? It's over $1 trillion.
Apple's over $1 trillion.
It's Apple.
And Amazon was briefly over $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But I think Bezos, because of his 20% ownership of Amazon, is now the richest man in the world by far. By far.
It's crazy.
And we had a little bit of rebound in the marijuana space, which is nice to see. I think we're in a up move now.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I think if I was to bet, I'd say, there's probably the shorts are going to have to get a little hurt here because you can't always be right, you can't always be winning. So the shorts win for a while, then the longs win for a while, and that's the kind of market we've had.
I really we spoke about it, Carl and I, on our show last week and the week before. We really did think there was going to be a sell the news, just because if it's in everyone's minds already. If you're an institution, you just sell a little aggressively. It's like getting a nice snowball and getting it ready and just push it over the side. Because that starts hitting stop losses. Then when those stop losses start hitting, now they have to sell. But then everyone else is seeing it and they're panicking. But I've long said I believe this is going to happen. Not like it did, but you get a little bit off of it, so it gets a little less frothy. But look at all these people who now can legally come in if they were a bank and they weren't allowed to before. Start getting some positions ready, because all it takes is one massive buy from a beer company, an alcohol company, tobacco, to reignite everything again. So is it time to buy? Hard to say. Make the decision yourself. Are prices 40%, 30% less than they were last week? Yes.
So buy and hold probably doesn't work right now.
No, it's you got to really watch it.
We're in a trader's market.
Don't get greedy.
So we're going to wrap it up, folks. I want to thank Brandon Colwell from Follow the Money Investment Group.
Nailed it.
Perfect. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, no, I had fun. Always willing to come on.
We
have James enjoying the sun. I'll be here.
You obviously look at things differently because of your, beauty before age, I guess is what. Anyway, we're going to sign off from Midas Letter RAW. See you tomorrow, folks. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock.